Despite her enormous ability and academic achievements, she could not get a job with a law firm in the early 1960s because she was a woman and the mother of a small child. Having experienced discrimination, she devoted the next 20 years of her career to fighting it and making this country a better place for our wives, our mothers, our sisters, and our daughters.
Good morning. Welcome to Bourbon Street. I am Mark Harrison, MH3, and I'll be solo hosting the show today. Quick shout out to my co-host Don Mayo, who is tending to his father. Best wishes to him for a speedy recovery. 2020 doesn't get any easier. I am by no means an expert on Notorious RBG. But I want to just talk about something that I find a bit fascinating. You think about all of her accolades. She's the first woman and the first Jewish person to lie in state at the U.S. Capitol. Just think about that for a second. It is 2020. She's the first. In fact, she's the first times two. And I want to read you word for word from the U.S. Capitol's website what it takes to rest in state. The rotunda of the U.S. Capitol has been considered the most suitable place for the nation to pay final tribute to its most eminent citizens by having their remains lay in state. In the case of government officials and military officers, or in honor in the case of private citizens. So let's do the math. This is the most suitable place for the most eminent citizens, of which it took the United States of America until 2020 to determine that a woman or a Jewish person, which in this case happens to be both, was suitable. For all the crap going on in America, that right there should put a punctuation mark on it for you. In fact, when I think about all the commentary about this amazing person, and all the commentary that says this is what she accomplished as a woman, or this is what she accomplished as a Jewish person, or this is what she accomplished as a Jewish woman, I think we should step back and say, it's not what she accomplished as a woman, because that's demeaning. It's not what she accomplished as a Jewish person, because that's also demeaning. It's what she accomplished based on what other people think of women and what other people think of Jewish people. I'm probably going to have at least one Trump rant in every section today. And I understand it's perfectly within Donald Trump and the hypocritical Republican Party's prerogative to replace her on the Supreme Court, despite the fact that this election, whether it's fixed or otherwise, is going to go against them, not just at the presidential level, but at the Senate level, despite the fact that they are the ultimate hypocrites. But if you truly, President Trump and Melania, believe that you're going to go and honor her, could you not just waited? Could you not waited till she was in her final resting place? Which, by the way, the best thing for Notorious RBG is she is going to a place that Donald Trump will never go to. No chance. Women in America have other reasons to mourn this week. Let's say her name. Breonna Taylor.
Breonna Taylor, and how much her name and her story have been on the hearts and minds of players there in the bubble. With the news from Louisville from earlier on Wednesday, how did that resonate there?
I mean, it reverberated everywhere, Scott. Players were hurting. And that's not to say that they didn't expect this. I asked Jaylen Brown actually about this yesterday when they declared a state of emergency in and around Louisville, and he said that he was already gearing up for a decision that he disagreed with. So when he was asked about it again after the game, he said, I can't be surprised, but in a way that makes it so clear why he is continuously referred to as a man who is great on the basketball court, but will be even greater potentially off of the basketball court. He said, what do you expect about a system that is rigged against, that was founded on an unfairness against people who look like him and people that look like me? And I'm sorry that I'm getting choked up here.
No,
because
please.
This is about the players and their response, but it's been hard for them. This is something that, as you mentioned, they fought for the entire time they've been down here, and they were hoping for a different outcome. And we've talked before, Scott, about how my job here is to objectively cover the truth, and to share what these players are going through. And today what they're going through is that they're hurting. And I have prided myself in being able to be objective and cover these sorts of issues. But when it is so clear that the system of objectivity in journalism is so whitewashed and doesn't account for the fact that when I am walking up the hill, my wonderful producer Melinda reminds me that Breonna Taylor was 26 and I am 25, and that could have been me. It is very hard to continue to go to work, and that's what these players were feeling. Now, players on both sides, that they said that they didn't contemplate not actually playing in this game. They always knew that was something that they were going to do, but that doesn't mean that they were not disappointed in what happened today in Louisville.
Bleaky, you got a ton of people that care about you, your family first and foremost, but your ESPN family too, and you're doing incredible work. But make sure that you're reaching out to the people that can help, and including us. When we're done with this, we're just working, but you know we got your back always. So anything we can do when this segment ends and this show ends, you reach out and we got you, okay?
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate you having me on.
A few weeks ago, I was on a panel about social injustice and race, and it was moderated by Kayla Gray from TSN. And she talked on that panel, and this segment's not to bash police, but it's just to bring some reality into people's minds that maybe you don't understand. She talked on that panel that when she worked a late show on the sports network, and she would drive home, say at 1 or 2 in the morning, she would wear her ID around her neck so that if she was pulled over, she could immediately transition from being a black woman, black person, to a celebrity. But I want to read you something very quick that she wrote this week in response to this unbelievable decision in Louisville. Black women having to wake up this morning feeling heavy and exhausted, but using whatever scrap of energy you have left in you to push through the day. I see you, and I love you fiercely. Why am I talking about this today? I'm not quite sure, outside the fact that this is going to an extreme that I can't believe. Let's look at a couple of things. Number one, the police officer who was charged, you've all read it, he wasn't charged for murdering Breonna Taylor. He was charged for recklessly shooting the neighbor's glass and windows and drapes. That's how, and this is not America, that's how Black people around the world now feel, that that's what America thinks. Their legal system says that drapes and blinds and windows are more important to them than people, let alone somebody who is helping on the front lines fighting COVID. In addition to that, so Matt Hankinson, he's been charged with that. In addition to that, the officer that was shot, and I feel horrible for the officer that was shot in his leg, Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly. But two things from him. So, as you recall, the police showed up at the door, didn't identify themselves, used a battering ram and knocked the door off its hinges, and then they were surprised that people inside were frightened. And because you've got carry laws in Louisville, the gentleman there, Breonna's boyfriend, shot at the police, and Sergeant Mattingly got shot in the leg. He sent an email out to his colleagues, completely pissed off about the police department's command staff, the mayor of Louisville, and the FBI. And he said, the good guys are demonized and the criminals are canonized. He just called Breonna Taylor a criminal. And she's dead. And she's a criminal. And then, just to put a little icing on the cake, he's now hired a lawyer, and he's saying, anybody who calls me a murderer, I'm going to file a civil lawsuit. Nowhere in this whole 6-month ordeal, at least nowhere that I know, has he said he's sorry. Like I said, I don't have a specific purpose of why I've included this outside of, as a Black person, you need to understand how angry this makes somebody feel, like me, and how scared and how scary it must be for Black people in the United States. Because the police went there to find packages from her ex-boyfriend who allegedly was a drug dealer. Why didn't they go and arrest him? Why didn't they come in the daytime? Why didn't they announce that they were the cops? Who knows how this happens? It's not been a great week. My hero died. Gail Sayers.
This is a story about two men. They competed for the same job. One was white, the other black. One liked to talk a lot.
You said, uh-huh.
The other was shy as a 3-year-old.
Hey, rookies got to stick together.
Our story is about how they came to know each other, fight each other,
I'm gonna whip you, Sayers. But you gotta be at your best.
and help each other.
I think I owe you a beer.
I owe you a lot more than that.
Yeah.
What it comes down to is that JC had a notion here, and Ed seems to think it's a good idea.
We'd like you and Brian Piccolo to room together.
You had me worried. I thought it was something really.
This is something really. Man, you're talking about a white man and a black man rooming together on a team that's never been done before.
What JC is saying is that there may be some pressures, severe ones.
I was afraid to get up. I figured not everything was going to come with me.
You have never seen anyone so black and blue in your life.
It's like a rooming with a colored player again.
Gail told the joke.
Gail, I'm sending Brian Piccolo back to Chicago. He's always been in shape, willing to give 100%. But he's not doing that anymore. And that's what worries me. I don't know what it is. Could be something physical, or it might be an emotional disturbance.
I mean, I know perfectly well what's wrong with me. Gail, I think I'm pregnant.
Don't make fun of me, Brian. I'm scared.
I'm no idiot. This thing I got's bad, I know that. But, well, it's just a detour, Joy. I'm not gonna let it stop me. I'm just not. There's no way.
The tough, tender, and true story of Gail Sayers and Brian Piccolo.
Now, I'm not here to talk about Gail Sayers just because he is my hero, which he is. As you can see, I'm wearing my Sayers tribute shirt, which I will admit I've worn this a couple times this week since hearing of his death at 77. So it's a little stinky, but I'm here by myself, so I can endure it. For years, people have asked me if I'm the third. You may know my initials are MH3. If you don't, you can look at the logo of the show in the corner of the screen. And many people have asked me, oh, well, if you're not the third, where does the 3 come from? Gail Sayers' autobiography is I Am Third. And that's how he lived his life. He put his family and he put God first. He put his family and friends second. He put himself third. And if you want to understand race relations, the history of the NFL, have a good cry, watch both versions of Brian's song in the next week. Because what you probably gathered from that clip is that you had 2 young athletes competing for the same job in the National Football League in the 60s, when literally many teams were not fully integrated. And as you could tell by that clip, it was actually forbidden by the Chicago Bears. It was a team rule that until that year, 1966, that white players and black players could not room together. Think how relevant this is to today. This is one generation from me. This is the 60s. I was born in 65. And for those of you who really know football, you know that Sayers' career was cut short, devastating knee injuries. Piccolo helped him rehab. Sayers went on to be the youngest player ever elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And unfortunately, Piccolo, as a young man, got cancer. I've had a picture on my wall, which is over there, since I was 5 years old. It's a sport magazine spread. Sport magazine, by the way, doesn't exist anymore. Sayers running up the middle against the New York Giants in the mud. And it's been on the back of the closet of my room everywhere. My bedroom, my university dorm room. I didn't notice that one year my wife stole it, had it scanned, framed, and it now sits on my wall here, and probably the second best Christmas gift I've ever received. But that's why my initials are MH3. Little interesting fact, I'm chairing a task force for Ontario University Athletics, and one of our members around Black, biracial, and Indigenous issues. One of our members is the Master Offensive Coordinator, Corey Grant. And when Disney did the remake of Brian's song in Hamilton a few years ago, actually 18 years ago, I think it was, Corey Grant actually played Gail Sayers in the on-field action, which he told me this week when we were chatting after Sayers' death. You have to understand what Sayers means to the city of Chicago. I was there last year for a Bears-Chargers game, and a woman stopped me in the street. I was wearing a different Sayers shirt that I have, and she asked me if I was related because it was a unique shirt. We'll deal with that prejudice issue later. B, she then asked for my picture, and she happened to know Gail Sayers, and she sent it to him, and I regret strongly that I didn't give her my email address and say, copy me on that. So sad to see Gail Sayers go, but a happy memory for this young fan. I still consider myself a young fan. Speaking of young fans, I have never, ever watched an episode of Schitt's Creek. Have you?
And the Emmy goes to Schitt's Creek, Eugene Levy, Schitt's Creek, Catherine O'Hara, Schitt's Creek,
Danny Murphy, Schitt's Creek.
Daniel Levy, Schitt's Creek.
Andrew Civadino, Daniel Levy, Schitt's Creek.
Daniel Levy, Schitt's Creek. Oh my goodness, this tent's on fire.
Schitt's Creek swept at the 2020 Emmy Awards on Sunday night.
Oh no! Okay, the internet's about to turn on me. I'm so sorry.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you, members of the Television Academy, for nominating me alongside these very cool women and for topping off this fun evening with this trophy treat.
Our show, at its core, is about the transformational effects of love and acceptance, and that is something that we need more of now than we've ever needed before.
What's going on? What's going on? This just felt like the perfect place to ask you to marry. Are you sure? Are you sure?
Easiest decision of my life.
Hi, Regine.
Good, Mark.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. So Regine, if she looks nervous, shouldn't be, because I just said to my producer, find somebody on our team that loves Schitt's Creek. I'm going to ask them some questions about the show because I've never seen it. And how have I not seen it? And I have not told Regine what the question. So Regine, tell me, do you remember the first time you saw Schitt's Creek?
I do remember you know what? I'm not a big TV I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't watch a lot of Netflix, truthfully. My husband, on the other hand, does. And this was the one show that I actually kept going back for, watching. I was hooked from the moment I saw the first episode. Just the writing, the dry sense of humor, which I love. Sitting in my other home 3 homes ago and just laughing and bringing back like that Catherine O'Hara, old school SCTV, Eugene Levy coming together. Maybe it was nostalgia of, my childhood.
Nice. And so, I mean, as Canadians, we should be amazingly proud because they cleaned up. Tell me a little bit about, did you watch the Emmys?
I did not watch the Emmys. I'm not an award show kind of person. As we alluded to, I think a couple bourbons ago, or on
shows or drinks.
I was just going to say shows, not drinks.
All right.
Fashion's not my forte, so watching them watching the aftermath and hearing about it and just the uproar and, streak after streak after streak and 9 trophies, like unbelievable. Like, when have we seen Canadian talent sweep the floor other than Justin Bieber and Drake, which to me is questionable.
Well, we'll deal with that on a future episode. But last question. So tell me, and tell the people watching, what do you love about this show? Tell me something that I wouldn't read on a fanzine. What do you love about this show?
It's just a matter of the characters. They're so completely different. Dan alluded to it in his acceptance speech, in a time where we're accepting of different beliefs and, not caring about who somebody loves. He was really able to focus on that. And he's very fortunate, I guess, to have his father part of that and be coming from an accepting family and putting it out there. And the fact that it's on, American television as well. It just provides a lot of laughter, a lot of tears, a lot of emotions that I think everybody can relate to in some way, shape, or form. Even though the cast is predominantly all white, there's still something that you can relate to.
Well, I saw a post from Kristen Stewart, who used to run CBC television, saying, proof of when you've got to stick to your guns about having the final decision, because the name, of course, being a CBC show originally was quite controversial. So kudos to everybody involved for sticking to your guns. And thank you for joining me on a Friday with absolutely no hint of what I was going to ask you.
I am going into the office, so if you could change your stinky shirt or at least spray some.
At 6 to 10 feet away, you won't smell a thing, I promise you. Have a good weekend. So, hey, we're going to jump in now and invite another special guest, my colleague and entrepreneurial friend, Poe. Poe, what is on your face? I can't hear you, Poe. You're either muted or you're masked.
I think I'm back. Can you hear me now?
You're off mute. Yes.
Okay, great. So this is what we're talking about. This is the Sippo mask, and I am so very excited to finally be able to talk about this and bring it to the world, because it's something I've been working on for quite a while, And I'm just really happy that it's out there and out in the world, and we can talk about it.
So let me back up, and I'm going to combine a couple of topics here, because I was going to talk about the extension of the Qs on today's show, but I'm running out of time due to my own mismanagement. So the Qs was extended till next summer. And as a small business person, one of the things I love about the Qs, it allows us to keep people employed and engaged. And Poe, you virtually walked into my office one day and you asked for $300 for an idea, which I absolutely love telling people that story. You had an inspiration. Tell me the inspiration. Take me to the backstory, because this has been months in the working. Tell me where this came from.
Yeah, so the whole point of this mask is that it has a self-sealing access that you can use to take a drink. And the inspiration just came from the realization that COVID would be with us for a while. It wasn't going away anytime soon. This was back in April. And that PPE or masks were going to become a part of our normal lives, or we'd have to normalize wearing them. And knowing that we needed to design or innovate these items so that they could fit in with people's daily lives. So it could make mask wearing that much more convenient, that much more comfortable. And not just for people like general public, but I think about frontline workers like grocery store employees or people in the service industry who need to wear a mask for a long period of time. The simple act of being able to have a drink would be a game changer for them. They don't have to remove their mask to have a drink, and that immediately reduces so much risk with COVID and mask wearing in general. So we know that the risks involved there's more risk not wearing a mask than there is wearing a mask, and the less you touch your mask, the less risk you're susceptible to. So that's really, and it came down to this.
Is this thing safe?
It is. Like, it takes the straw, you can take a drink, and then I can try to blow this candle.
You need to start jogging. You can't even blow out a little candle. Come on.
And it keeps it. So it is. I can't make any medical claims. This is a non-medical item. It's a non-medical face mask. It is safer than not wearing a mask, and it allows you to have a drink. So if you need to wear a mask for a long period of time, or if you're commuting, or if you're traveling, if you're on an airplane, I think it's the perfect accessory to sort of make that a little bit more comfortable for you.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us. Shameless plug. Order your SIPO mask today.
Thank you very much.
I mentioned off the top that 2020 just keeps kicking us down. I have to, try to hold it together here and have a quick shout out for a friend of ours, Robert Byrne, his wife Sabrina. Robert spoke at Sponsorship X last year and talked about his journey from being paralyzed in a riding accident and becoming the first Canadian to do the Kona Ironman triathlon. Tragically, Robert and his wife lost their 14-year-old daughter last week in a riding accident. So I just want to send them my love. I'll see you next week on Bourbon Street.